Okay, thank you very much. I'm a speaker, Professor Yakov Ben-Haim of the Technion in the Israel Institute of Technology, Cascading Failures, a preliminary infogap analysis.
Okay. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to tell you some thoughts about cascading failures from the perspective of infograph decision theory. I will tell you what I mean by a cascading failure and emphasize the idea of deep uncertainty. And then I will look at two examples to try and illustrate the methodology for prioritizing one's policy or design alternatives. We've seen lots of examples, and so it's going to be pretty clear. If we have a network, whatever that is, connecting n different nodes, then a cascading failure of degree phi is one where failure of at least one node could cause failure of phi sub-nodes altogether, where the number phi, of course, can vary depending on the size of the net. So that is just a simple intuitive idea of what I mean by cascading failure of degree phi. The point that I want to emphasize and that I will return to again and again in my talk is the word could cause failure. The centrality of my message is the idea of uncertainty. There are lots of things that we don't know, we don't understand. The impolite way of saying that is we don't know what the hell's going on. And I'm going to be focusing on that deep uncertainty. And to begin to tell you what I mean by deep uncertainty, an infogap is the disparity between what you do know, which may be quite a lot, and what you need to know, which may be quite a lot and quite different in order to make a responsible decision. So I'm imagining a situation where I don't know what's going on. I may not know really the structure of my network. I don't know the qualitative nature of some of the central nodes. I don't know what nodes are communicating between themselves. Those channels are multidimensional. There are lots of things that I need to know in order to manage or survive or whatever, and I just don't know. That's the infogap. That's the deep uncertainty. That's the context in which I'm going to be presenting a few simple examples to try and illustrate a methodology which itself, in the examples I'll present, is quantitative, mathematical, but also can be implemented in a non-quantitative way in other situations. Another point that I'm going to really emphasize is, as you can tell from my accent where I'm from, although I've been here for many years, Americans would say, some of my best friends are. Well, I will say that some of my best friends are probabilists. But infogap is not probabilistic. We're not talking about a situation where we know a probability distribution. We're not talking about a situation where we really even know the event space. And so we really can't normalize a probability distribution. In fact, we may be talking about one of those exotic situations where probability distributions don't exist at all, as Abraham Wald discussed in one of his early papers. Infogap is a lack of knowledge, and probability may be part of our knowledge, but our probability models are wrong. We just don't know how wrong they are. A beautiful metaphor from John Wheeler, a physicist, to give a taste of what I mean about deep uncertainty. We live on an island of knowledge, surrounded by a sea of ignorance. And as our island of knowledge grows, so is the shore of our ignorance. So, I'm a professor, I live in a university, and I enhance our knowledge, and I'm very proud of that. But actually, as the island of our knowledge grows, the shoreline of our ignorance gets longer and longer and longer. And that needs to instill a bit of modesty in professors like myself. So this is pasted over my desk, or should be at least. So let me try and illustrate a methodology through a couple of simple examples. The game of telephone. Okay, we all know the game of telephone. And people are sitting in a row, and the guy at one end whispers a message to his neighbor, who then whispers it on and on and on, and it gets the last person who announces the message. The degree of cascading failure in that system is 1. That is, the fraction of nodes that can fail in transmitting the message is 1, because even the first person who heard the message of God may have transmitted it incorrectly to the next guy, who then corrupted it all along the way. So the possibility that the message is corrupted at each node is real, and the degree of failure is 1. But the critical thing here is the possibility that every node will fail. The uncertainty is central here. And we have very poor understanding of the uncertain processes that are involved in the transmission from node to node. In any particular realization, the degree of failure could be less than 1. And we're interested in understanding how and when the degree of failure will be less than 1. That every node could fail, that is simply the reality. So the sorts of questions that one might be interested in is how large a network is feasible, and what is the value of information? And I will try and touch on those 2 questions as we go on. So to make a simple mathematical model for this system, pi is the probability of correct transmission from one node to the next, and p is the probability that the degree of failure will be fraction I over n. And what we want is that the probability of failure of degree I over n will be less than some critical probability. Okay, so it's a simple formulation of a problem, and we're talking about a very simple network, just a linear network. Obviously, it can be extended to others, but that's not the point at the moment. We want to know how can we evaluate this requirement when we face deep uncertainties. And in this particular simple case, the probability of correct transmission is not known. We really don't know it. Okay? Which is just sort of the prototype of the types of deep uncertainty that we face. So I'm not going to be doing a probabilistic analysis of this trivial little network. What I'm going to be doing is analyzing this trivial little network probabilistically when I really don't know the probability model. Then what do? That's the info gap contribution. So again, how large a network is feasible is sort of a technical question, and what would be the value of things that we might be able to learn about the underlying uncertainties of transmission of information in this network. And I will introduce the idea of robustness as it's formulated in infogap theory, where the robustness question is, all right, we have some guess about what the probability of failed transmission is. How wrong can we be in our current knowledge? And our performance requirement is still satisfied. Okay, so we have knowledge about the system, which in this particular example is this number pi. We know our knowledge is wrong. We need to make various design decisions. How large a network can we authorize, for example? And the robustness question is, how much ignorance can we tolerate? How wrong can we be in our knowledge? And the design that we are proposing is still going to cut the mustard. Okay? So I believe in knowledge, but but I believe in knowledge is wrong. I believe in using knowledge, but when we say it in a different context. But you need to be very skeptical of the knowledge that you have, and you need to ask the robustness question, how wrong can my knowledge be, and the design that I'm proposing is still going to be good enough. So I'm not going through how you do this, but one can evaluate a robustness function. That is, one can get, in this sort of situation, in this case, an analytical result, which is robustness versus probability of failure. So if we look at the curve, the horizontal axis is the probability of failure that we're willing to accept. Should we accept 0.25 or 0.15 or 0.1? So this is our performance requirement here, and we might like to know when you need to decide what critical probability we're going to tell the minister, yes, the probability of survival is 15% or 25%. The vertical axis is the robustness. It's the answer to the question of how wrong can we be in all of our current knowledge, which in this actual example is simply knowledge of I. How wrong can we be, and the corresponding performance requirement will still be satisfied. And we see a number of properties of this curve of robustness to our ignorance versus performance requirement. First, back. No, can't go back. So, okay. Trying to go back, I went forward. The first thing we see is trade-off. The slope is positive. As you demand better performance, as you require lower probability of failure, your robustness gets lower. And that's a generic mathematical theorem that's illustrated here. It's sometimes called the pessimist's theorem. Any good pessimist knows that as you demand better performance, you become more vulnerable to your ignorance. And that's what the positive slope here. As you demand lower probability of failure of your system, your robustness to your ignorance goes down. And the slope of the curve tells you the trade-off. It tells you how much additional information is worth or not. The second thing we see is that the robustness becomes zero at a particular level of performance. So at 7%, the robustness for 30 out of 100 nodes failing, the robustness becomes zero at a particular level of performance. And it's not just any old level of performance, it's actually the best estimate of the performance. Given our current best knowledge, our predicted probability of failure is 0.7, and the robustness for that is 0. Predicted outcomes have no robustness to our ignorance. That's a generic theorem, which is illustrated just in this numerical example. And that has important implications for what we usually call optimization. Optimization in our design decisions is the process by which we use our best knowledge to evaluate and predict the outcomes of the design alternatives, and then prioritize based on our predictions. Yakov, use your best knowledge to predict as accurately as you can the outcomes of your design decisions, and then choose the decision which, based on your best knowledge, is believed to be best. And if you can't do that, we'll find someone who can. No, don't do that when you're facing deep uncertainty, because the robustness to your ignorance of your predictions is zilch. Optimization based on our best knowledge is a bad strategy. Of course, what is a better strategy is the question that immediately arises, and that's the strategy that is developed here, which is based on prioritizing, on optimizing robustness to your ignorance. Don't try and optimize the quality of the outcome. Ask yourself, what is the worst outcome that I can live with? Not what is the best outcome I can get. What is the worst outcome I could live with? That's called satisficing. Herb's argument called that satisficing. What is the worst outcome I can live with? And then optimize your robustness to your ignorance. Don't try and optimize the quality of the outcome. Okay, so to sort of deal with that short example here, We have a large, cumbersome system, which is the standard and familiar one, and it's what's good enough for Grandpa, and it's good enough for me. I'm a grandpa. And we have a new, small, compact, but unfamiliar system. And we have to decide whether we should go with this new and innovative system, which some bright young guy just graduated from the Technion has invented, or should we go with the state of the art? And that's a classical innovation dilemma. Should we go with what works and we're familiar with and is good enough, or should we go with something that's new and innovative but more uncertain? Now, we live in an age of progress. We believe in progress, and I believe in progress. I have, progress in my life. But how do we deal with this dilemma of innovation? The predicted, this is purely continuing the same silly little example, but the predicted probability of failure for the new and innovative is 0.5. Maybe that's okay. The predicted probability of failure is 0.8 for the standard. That's certainly not okay. It would certainly seem we should go with the new and innovative. Its predicted behavior is better, but remember the zeroing problem. Those predictions have zero robustness to error in the model and understanding and insight and data upon which those predictions are based. So now consider robustness and their trade-offs. And then you get a situation like this. These are again robustness curves. So the horizontal axis is our performance requirement, the critical probability that the minister has said, if the probability of failure is greater than that, you're fired. We would like to be on the left. We'd like to have low probability of failure. And the vertical axis is the robustness to our ignorance for the two design alternatives, the new and innovative compact version or the state-of-the-art large and cumbersome version. Well, the predicted outcome of new and innovative is better. It has a smaller predicted probability of failure, but its cost of robustness is higher. That is, you have to give up performance. You have to give up more performance with the dash new and innovative to augment your robustness than you need with the standard cumbersome model. And these curves cross. And if before I said maximize robustness, we can see that there's no unique solution here. You're more robust with the new and innovative if your performance requirements are very demanding, but you have to recognize that maybe the robustness is rather low, and that's a value judgment I'm not going to go into. How much robustness is robust enough? Big question, no time for it. But if you're willing to accept less favorable outcomes, you're more robust with the alternative, the standard non-innovative option. The intersection of these robustness curves is in fact the quantitative manifestation of the 5 minutes? No. Okay. Is the manifestation of the innovation dilemma that I meant. The intersection of those robustness curves is the dilemma. I'm more robust with one option in one domain and more robust with the other option in the other domain. So that's where the policymaker comes in. How good an outcome do you need, boss? And that will then dictate that then resolves my dilemma. How good an outcome do you need, boss? It dictates my resolution of the dilemma. Yeah, okay, said all that. It's another example. I only just started. Traffic jams are a pain in the ass. They're also really dangerous under emergency situations because either you have to get out of there or you have to get to there. So traffic jams are of interest not just for getting to work, and there are big uncertainties in traffic jams. Speed of the cars and density cars are related, or at least they're supposed to be related. When you're going faster, you're supposed to have lower density cars and keep your distance. It's not really a rule in Israel, but it's supposed to be. But the relation between density and speed is highly uncertain. And the problem with traffic jams is that once you start getting a higher density, the speed goes down, but then the jam grows from upstream at the high speed of the incoming cars. And while the density is lower up there, so the flux is lower, the jam grows at its upstream and evaporates at its downstream at very different rates, and you can have a growth of these traffic jams. And the question then is, could one manage this sort of situation by detecting and then automatically adjusting the upstream allowed speed? Of course, one of the big uncertainties, really not an uncertainty, is will people obey the upstream revised speed? And so one can analyze this problem, and I'm going to, because I'm really running out of time, just show you that one gets to robustness curves where the performance axis is here, is the duration of my traffic jam, so that a demanding performance requirement, or my boss, who's the Minister of Transportation maybe, it says I'm willing to accept short durations of traffic jams, and the vertical axis is the robustness. Robustness to error in my understanding of traffic dynamics, which especially under extraordinary circumstances is severe, because we're not talking about just ordinary traffic jams, we're talking about everybody frantically trying to get away. And the curve shows the trade-off as well as the zeroing. So my predicted duration has no robustness, and I get positive robustness only for longer duration of the traffic. And then if you compare, and this is a somewhat simplified example, if you compare two alternatives where your upstream revised speed is 70 as opposed to an upstream revised speed of 90 kilometers per hour, then the 70 is predicted to be better, but the uncertainty in telling the Israeli driver to drive 70 kilometers an hour on the freeway, the uncertainty there is greater. And so you get, again, an innovation dilemma. And the resolution of the dilemma is manifested in the crossing of the robustness curves, as I explained in the previous example. Depending on how good an outcome you require, you're willing to accept up to 20 minutes, or you require less than 20 minutes, then you're more robust with the uncertain but ambitious upstream speed. If you're willing to accept half an hour, then you're much more robust with the more modest upstream revised decision. This is not specific numerical advice to the Department of Transportation. I'm trying to illustrate the thought process, I'm going to wrap up now, where what one is optimizing is not the outcome. I'm not trying to minimize the duration of the traffic jam. I'm trying to manage the traffic jam so that the duration is acceptably long. If we can get them out of there in half an hour, not too many people are going to die. And what I'm optimizing is my immunity to my ignorance. That is not conventional optimization, as I explained earlier. Okay. So the innovation, new is promising but more uncertain. I'm in favor of new. I'm actually in favor of uncertain. That pays the rent, but that's different. Severe uncertainty. We don't know probabilities. We don't know lots of things. Rumsfeld, unknown unknowns. That's me. He didn't invent that, by the way. And what I can tell you about is the idea of robust satisficing. Herb Simon didn't coin, but he revised the definition of the word satisficing to satisfy a critical requirement, to do good enough. In a world of deep uncertainty, optimizing the outcome is wishful thinking. That's what professors say. And then what you want to optimize is your robustness to your ignorance, your robustness to surprise. And I talked about two examples, and if there are questions, I'd be happy to try and answer.
I think if the organizers allow a couple of questions, we can take. Any questions? Yes, please.
A simple quandary for those who are not experienced in what you're talking about.
Traffic jam.
for a non-probabilistic, you asserted that this was a non-probabilistic approach and then explained almost everything in terms of probabilities. So perhaps you could help me across that bridge.
Sure.
But the good news, coming from Brisbane, Queensland, we have variable speed limits and signs that change depending not only on traffic density, but the weather. And the people understand that the objective is not to avoid paying fines, but to avoid being in damaging collisions. The uptake is very high, the compliance is very high, and the numbers can be dialed up and down, and the data collected in a probabilistic understanding of what is the effect of varying the instructions to drivers. So, although I'm confused about the theory, I'm all aboard with the conclusions.
Right, great. Yeah, I've been in Brisbane a number of times, and the weather there is dreadful. Yeah. Rainy and hot. Yeah. But anyway, so yes, I understand that part of it. Probability and robustness. The infogap robustness is not probabilistic. It's not a probability of something. The underlying model in that example was probabilistic. And what I don't know is the probability. My infogap is about the probability. So, you know, my friend is a probabilist, and he gave me this probabilistic model, and I said, well, Joe, I mean, you know that probability? Well, you know, we have a guess. So what I do is embed, in that example, embed a probabilistic model in a non-probabilistic analysis of Joe's ignorance. The robustness is the answer to the question, how wrong could Joe be in his estimate of the probability? And the outcome will still be good enough. So the robustness is non-probabilistic. So infogap hybridizes, and you can infogap a probabilistic model. There are a number of examples from the University of Queensland in biological observation doing that, and also from Melbourne doing that. But you can also have just a pure infogap robustness analysis with no probability anyway. The infogap robustness is non-probabilistic assessment of one's vulnerability to threats. I'm delighted and not surprised, maybe not surprised, that there are adaptive street signs in Queensland. Australians are like Israelis, but much more polite.
I had the lady there who raised her hand. Did you raise your hand?
Yeah, okay, a bit of a practical question, out of ignorance, okay? Let's say I get the call tomorrow to go to a disaster setting, okay? Say the island of Dominica, okay? There's an earthquake, tsunami is coming, there's flooding and so on. How do I use that, what you taught here? Who do you think is the boss who I ask for the outcome in that kind of context?
Right. I'm not sure I captured the context. But
you can take any disaster
right.
context that you imagine.
Yeah, any disaster context.
Yeah.
Ooh. Any? Okay.
Well, cascading maybe, it's something
sure.
complex.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Let me answer it briefly this way. These examples were quantitative, numerical. I had mathematical models, and the infogap analysis was mathematical. And there are many applications that I've been involved in, primarily in national security issues, where you have deep uncertainty and huge infogaps, but no possibility of making a mathematical model. And then the question is, well, how do you transform the insights of this sort of analysis to a situation where you can't do the math? And that has been done by the idea of a qualitative conceptual proxy for the idea of robustness. So we don't evaluate robustness in those situations mathematically or numerically. We ask for various proxies of robustness. So we ask, is the design that's being proposed resilient to failure? Is it redundant? Does it have redundant solutions? Is it flexible over the short term? Is it adaptive over the long term? Is it comprehensive? So these methods of interrogating a proposed design or decision aim to evaluate the degree to which the proposal satisfies a requirement despite the fact that our understanding is very deficient. So perhaps in the situation that you were talking about, I would not try and construct a mathematical model, I would perform a qualitative robustness analysis.
But if you don't even know the requirements in that
Yeah,
situation.
the requirements can be uncertain. So, if you know nothing, if the lights are totally off and you don't know where the switch is and you know absolutely nothing, then really nobody's going to be able to help you. But if you know some things, and one of the things you know is that what you know is wrong, but you do have some things that you know. So your requirements are that we know that we need to have not too many people die. Okay, that's not very well defined, but it's a requirement. So we look and say, well, what does not too many people mean? Well, we have uncertainty. So there can be uncertainty, and many examples have been studied where we have uncertainty in our requirements. One can ask the robustness question. How wrong can we be in what we think is our requirement?